Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our exit interviews. I am here this week, joined by Alex, and as always, Lily will be here for every exit. And we have Danny, as he said, 2/18ths of what he would like to be, but he's here, and we are happy to get to talk to him. How you
Was
doing?
that ninth? That's 1/9 if I reduce my
Yeah.
fraction.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's better.
Morgan's the math host.
Well, just to get, dip our toes into it, how did you prepare for this All-Stars? I kind of want to ask everyone because in the first couple episodes, we see the wide range of Lex with what has been dubbed his murder board, I think, where he has notes on everyone. And then we have some people that just have busy lives and they can't dedicate that much time, so they've watched a lot of recaps of the seasons they hadn't seen. So how did you prep this season?
Yeah, I thought pretty good, but after seeing the murder wall, evidently way not enough. Um, so let's see, there was Sahara Dunes, Monte Carlo, I think immediately after, and then Trinity Falls. Obviously, I watched those kind of full length as they were coming out. Watched a couple of seasons even prior to me playing the first time, just because I was kind of unfamiliar with orgs and DCP in general. So was just kind of good to watch some of that in those earlier seasons. I think I critically missed the one that will come back to haunt me that I'm sure we'll talk about. I don't remember if I even I'm certain I watched like the recaps of whatever else kind of thing, right? But that doesn't really get into the dynamics of it as maybe a full length watch would have done. So
I want to say when we were auditioning you for Sahara Dunes or casting, whatever you want to call it, you mentioned that you found us via a TikTok, which is Mackenzie, most likely from Exile Island. And interesting enough, that's the season you might have critically missed.
Yep.
That'll do it. And I think one part that you mentioned that I think is interesting, and we really see it in this third episode, just to skip forward before we go back to the beginning, is the different ways that people in a mini are playing versus a long game. We see Zucker talk about this long game version of a clue where you get a little piece of it on the tree mail every day that he saw in Exile. We heard on the Sunday show, Ben said in minis, it's not like that. It's like somebody changes their Zoom name, you message them, and you get a clue. And so it's just different ways of playing a similar game. How do you think that impacted how things kind of played out this season?
I don't discount the difference between a mini and a long game. I think that there were like a lot of things that were like just first playthrough, second or after playthrough was like a huge gap, right? The season where there was like minimal idols and advantages versus like this one where there's just like stuff's being thrown at you left and right and like you don't know what to do with it. And but yeah, certainly like the mini versus the long game, um you know there's a lot that contributes to it that I think made this experience quite a bit different than my first playthrough, for sure.
Because you and Maddie come in at the most disadvantage, in my opinion, with idols and advantages, because we only had the legacy advantage in your season. We
And
didn't
nothing
do
ever
anything.
happened. So
And it was just one like really long blurb right at the beginning of the day, and it's like, all right, find it, don't, or whatever. Our previous host Lauren was just like, why don't we do a purely kind of social game? And I was like, let's add the legacy and deal. So
yeah, I think a common theme, as we'll talk through like specific instances, but I think like a common theme that I've reflected on is like playing at a certain place here in Sahara Dunes and then just like way overcompensating on the other side of it, in like various aspects of like gameplay and advantage hunting and things like that. So again, as I'm sure we'll kind of get through, but That's my general takeaway.
And we see in the first couple episodes, you form this nice group with Simmons and Maddie and Andrew, not Andrew.
No.
Oh my gosh.
It's that three, and then eventually you have Brittley
Brittley,
and Mike
yes,
as like
yeah,
your fourth
okay.
and your fifth
So,
person.
sorry, we see that kind of join together. Were you pulled into that, or were you trying to form that during that first vote where you vote off Garsow?
I'd have to go back and look at the read receipts. I don't remember who actually formed it. I do remember the first night, and this I guess never ever ended up coming to fruition in any way. But like we get off like from the marooning and the first challenge. Again, I'm looking to play and probably way compensate play, but like I had been talking to a couple of different people, I think Maddie, Simmons included, just about like, hey, who's gonna be like the gang or the crew to like once we're done with this. And then of course you have like the big tribe group chat, right? For like seemingly endlessly in the night because nobody wants to be the first to hop off. But of course people are messaging on the side. And then once that wrapped up, I was like meant to send this to a group that I had with Maddie and Simmons, where it's like, so is crew gonna chat now? But I accidentally put it in the full tribe.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Yes.
Should we make a
And so
subgroup?
yeah,
And-
it was.
I was like,
Should we make a
so-
subgroup and then you like backtrack like, oh, it's
the
like something about the
folders for
challenges. No,
uploading.
yeah, for uploading.
Yeah, the folders for upload. Again, maybe that was absolutely nothing, and I'm just in my own mind about it even to this day. Or maybe somebody thought about it and thought that dude's like already playing too hard. I hate it. But yeah,
And
I
that move-
don't believe that in particular really caused anything, but it did cause this
our
great
favorite
alliance
group
name.
chat. It's our favorite group chat of alert, alert, alert. Use this one, not the tribe chat.
yeah.
Best alliance.
Every single round that in the first few rounds that you all were in the game, I would give recaps to the prod team after tribal council, and I would give a dialogue of the alliance names, and I would always say yours with the most
alert,
enthusiasm.
alert, alert.
Then it like had the opposite effect of like I'd forget for a split second that I named it that, and I'd get some message from alert, like I think that there's like some terrifying thing that's happening. But
Yeah.
that it had to have been done in order to
Yeah.
prevent further missteps like that.
Yeah, I think I think about that a lot because when I played Exile, we did not have to include the hosts in our chats. So it was very easy to differentiate what is with who. And so I always think about how does that impact people's games, messaging the wrong group. It is a part that as viewers, we don't get to see unless someone does a confessional about it. And we didn't see one. So maybe it went over everybody's head.
I covered it up too damn well.
Yeah, with those folders. Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned
I think that's kind of how things like
Yeah.
the initiation of like the Simmons Maddie thing. I don't know exactly who, but just that in that kind of first night, again, talks of good vibes and just led to that group as a good one to get things going.
Yeah, and you guys do the thing, you vote out Garsow, but in this vote out, you receive 3 votes. And as you said, you're playing hard, you might be overcompensating for your Sahara Dunes game. So what is your reaction to that?
Not great. I think I said it in my voting confessional. Like it was just a different feeling to know that something, I mean, by the time the votes were being read, like, yeah, I had definitely more than known that my name was on the chopping block, and that it was probably going to be either Garsow or myself. Different feeling, very nervous. And then, in the immediate aftermath, feeling good, obviously, about how things went. if we're about to talk through the little surprise that you guys threw at us, then had some feelings after that. But
Yeah, let's just go right into
Yeah.
it. The Austin's flip, does this eventually hurt your game in your eyes if instead Garsow was just gone and you can wipe your hands?
well, certainly, right? Like, and not just Garso, just like anybody, right? Like, I think that's the tough thing about a shakeup like that, is that you're playing under a certain set of assumptions that you basically do whatever you can to get anybody but you out, if that means like laying your cards out on the table or aligning a certain way just to get that to that next round. Like, you're doing whatever you can to make that outcome happen. So it's a little bit tough and bittersweet and like challenging for gameplay when that kind of gets reversed on you and you've like put all of this effort into the game to make this outcome happen, but then you don't necessarily get to reap any of the rewards of it, right? And in this case, did it hurt me in particular with who ended up coming over? Yes. Do I think that I probably would have been in a better position had I actually been the one to get voted out first and go over to the other tribe? Also probably yes. So yeah, that was I didn't immediately recognize that, of course, but like that was in retrospect a very challenging thing to deal with.
Yeah.
So I have two questions before we keep moving forward here. So with that in mind, like obviously knowing what you know now, Austin Moorhead being the person voted out and joining back up with two other exile people in Andrew and in Simmons was really like the giant nail to your coffin for your game eventually. Like obviously you still had the Lydia vote, but there was a ticking clock to a point where when push came to shove, Simmons was going to keep Austin over you if that came to be. Based off what you have seen in the episodes from the other tribe, is there anyone in particular that you think, well, if they had gotten voted out instead and came over, maybe that helps even further structure the position that you had with Simmons and with Maddie instead of weakening it?
Yeah. That's interesting.
Jeremy could have been a help as well, but I don't think would have replaced you as like higher in like Simmons's world.
Yeah. So things I think about, like, it definitely couldn't have been either of the Trinities on that side, because I think that would just
Go to Lydia.
then, yeah, it would just kind of strengthen what was already, present. Yeah, like you said, Jeremy McKenna.
Jeremy, because
Yeah,
Jeremy
being like the kind of other independent out of the vote kind of from their side, but without like super strong like, with.
Yeah.
And he and Simmons played in the same, or no?
No, they
No.
didn't play in the same season,
Okay.
but they've met in person together like once.
Well, then I
One
don't know
time,
about that.
one time.
No,
they
it was
met
one
Simmons
time.
and Andrew.
he was on prod for exile,
But he also was coming into this game saying how his like Yasawa people, besides Austin, like he was going to essentially target or try to get out earlier. So there's no necessary guarantee that he will just went to the other side because Karen was on the other side and he wanted to do better than Karen. So like there was ways that I think could have been maneuvered if he didn't win the immunity necklace and was taken out. But going back to that vote of Garsow, you do play bold, and like you are like very upfront with Lydia about like, well, I want this to happen. She then go and she says no. You go, well, then can you give me what you want? And it's a very open discussion that I guess in one way could have potentially like hurt your game because you're out in front. Like there's I don't know if they made the episode, but there was a confessional from Maddie where she was essentially like, I feel like unintentionally we have pushed Danny out in front, which is like great for my game individually because Danny's going to be the name. But I almost respected it in this early part of the game because like, were you being that open just like, because I know one thing you were saying was, I want tribe unity. Was that the main focus of that, or was it also, well, maybe they'll respect me more because I was more open about my intentions?
You mean to like be so vocal or in specific?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a chicken and egg situation, if I'm being honest, because I mean, there were plenty of nails in the coffin that happened even later on that I probably could have maneuvered around and done a better job of. But like from the very first point where your name gets thrown out, you're kind of put in a corner, right? And you're forced to play hard to get out of that corner, but then you're pegged as playing hard. And all of this is kind of like, I mean, I don't think that a lot of this was perceived in the way that the edits kind of portray it. Because I like, there were a lot of conversations that I was having. And so, but apparently not enough, like in that first round, to not have people, like not want to say my name, right? So was like the earliest instance of my problematic game, like not talking enough to Karen and not talking enough to Garsow and not talking enough to Andrew, and just like that my name even kind of spun up from the very beginning is what really caused me so much, caused me to struggle so much later on, is because that I had no choice but to like fight out of it.
Right.
But yeah, but I was also very serious about the tribal unity thing. I've seen in some of the episodes like people like expressing that that's like not a move that they appreciate, or that they would prefer to have like a smaller majority. I don't know. I think that's one way, but I think that it is also true that in a swap type scenario, there is a certain emphasis that people can give to a tribe that has not had significant challenges. And I mean, we had significant challenges given that we had to go to tribal so many times. Like, had we been able to get through each and every one of those totally unified on who we were voting for, I think there's a lot to be said for like how that leads to gameplay in a mix-up. So
I also feel like that's a good mindset to have, especially with like kind of the rigorous format that we had, where it was tribal council, then straight into your next immunity challenge. And if you just were broken apart for a vote, it's hard to get that unity to come together for a challenge. So, I don't fault you for wanting tribe unity at all for a vote, because, you have to vote someone out. That's the game. But like, let's move forward as a group into the next challenge and not be divided and in like not in a unified like mindset. So
yeah, and there was something you mentioned about, having to dig yourself out of a hole. And I think one thing that really kind of pushed you down there, I guess, is maybe what it did, was Lydia saying, the people you need to watch out for is Maddie and Danny, because they're a duo, and just puts it all out there, kind of blames you two for, I guess, the tribe not unity. And so as a viewer, we don't really see a lot of one-on-one with you and Maddie. We see a lot of group calls, but I was wondering, was that kind of how it felt going into it? I mean, you guys are both from the same season, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna gravitate towards each other to be one-on-one or a duo aspect. So was that just her perception and that's what became reality, or was it actually happening?
yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about the duo argument. Not even just mine perceived duo, but just like the duo argument in general. Like, but to speak specifically to Maddie and I, yeah, I mean, because I think it's an example of why I think it's a little bit ridiculous. And I said this in so many different confessionals and talks with other people, maybe some shown, I don't remember, and unshown, but Maddie and I were on the same season together. We spent 2 votes worth, or not even 2 votes, 2 rounds worth on the same tribe, the first of which was a completely unanimous vote based on challenge performance. That was so easy. And the second was
You won.
We didn't have to go to tribal. We won. And then we were swapped. And we never saw each other again because she got rocked out. Like, what? And like, nothing against Maddie at all. Like, she's awesome. But we didn't like keep up super incredibly close between the games or anything like that. So what about that to other people scream that had watched? Because that's like, you can go out there and observe that. I don't know what that screams duo to people. Now, of course, at the end of all of this, I get to eat my words because it doesn't matter. And we were a duo. And like,
it sucks when it works out that way, where it's like, oh,
but,
damn it.
But like another point that I just made to so many people was like, I'm not going to intentionally, at least at that point in the game, I'm not going to intentionally stray away from a common vote to me just because people think that we're working together. I mean, we are based on our votes, but like, there are only like max 2 sides on any one of those votes that we had in those early rounds. So like, she's either voting my way or the other way. Does it mean that we're like this super solidified duo? I don't think so, even from perception, but you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is again another part that plays into All Stars. A huge theme of her past season, Trinity Falls, was duos, and she got thrown into a duo, and that really affected her game. So it's interesting to see that mindset kind of carried over into All Stars for Lydia. So again, it's that perception, her perception of her, you know, maybe her previous DCP game kind of played into this one, and you know, it's hard to think about that when the game's going on. I wouldn't think about it, but it's interesting to watch back as a viewer, and to hear, you know, how you felt that it was driving. So after Lydia's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to make like a bit of a comment on my like general thought about duo is that I guess I don't, other than like real serious, like in real life relationships that exist. I mean, that's kind of a next level duo. But to me, like, I don't quite understand why the duo argument over anything else that is like the microcosm of the actual game you're playing, why duo threat is over like any other, like, if we're talking pre-existing duo, that like you're more likely to develop like duo relationships in the game, maybe some that are like completely not pre-existing, that are like way stronger than a duo because they're unknown, right? Like, unknown to me is actually more threatening than known. I guess that's like harder to, I don't know, address and tackle because they're unknown. But yeah, to me, the duo arguments,
and especially if the duo is with you and on your side, and that's 2 votes for you. So
and Danny says that in his confessionals. He's like, and honestly, Maddie's only other choice at that moment is like she votes with you or she votes you. Like those are the 2 options. So obviously for you, you're gonna be like, well, yeah, I'm gonna keep working with Maddie because Maddie's not putting my name down on parchment.
And I think what I guess I could have actively done better and thought about in that, like, after that big duo reveal was like, okay, is this the time? I mean, again, no offense, Maddie, like, is this the time to cut Maddie? Is this the time to like fully own up to Simmons and say like, hey dude, let's just like
make something new.
I care about my personal game way more than I care about, like, you know, Maddie's personal game. So of course, but you know, do I have the right relationship with other people to even have those conversations? Are Maddie and Simmons really close? If I say, hey Simmons, let's cut Maddie, is that just to turn right around and say, Maddie, Danny just said that's about you, let's get him out? Like, so it was certainly like, I thought through all of these things. It was just kind of like, you know, risk benefit, what outweighs what? Am I more likely to screw myself one way versus the other? So
And you go straight from this tribal into the challenge. And in that challenge, that was kind of trick the Castaways into saying, oh, we have a swap, but it ends up being just a host swap. So you're coming from a tribal where your name is thrown out there, you've got names. Were you hoping that there was a swap, or were you like, oh no, I don't want to swap, I want to stay with my people?
No, kind of. Yeah, I was down again for like, I think anybody, reference anybody on Real Survivor that's just gone through like 2 votes, or at least 1 vote where their name cropping up a lot, and another one that I don't know was after it you got your name outed for like some alliance that you have. Like, yeah, swap me up. Like, get new people in front of me. Like, let's make some new alliances. Yeah, I was honestly looking forward to it. I was disappointed that it was.
And as long as you don't swap with Maddie, then that duo's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah, until later.
Well, and then as we've all alluded to, your tribe struggles in this challenge essentially. And even after the challenge, we see, I think, 3 confessionals of people being like, what happened? I'm watching people just utterly struggle at some of these classic org games. You know what I mean? And so in your mind, and I think, what you've kind of talked about, the obvious vote is to maybe vote out. I mean, sorry, Andrew, sorry, Brittley, you're both on my fantasy team, so I'm allowed to say this, but why not, focus on one of those 2 people? Why do you think that, we see the Simmons, who is like struggling with how bad the tribe is going to, not really super consider either of those options?
Yeah, I short answer is I don't know. I'm like, I think I've said it before, past season maybe, like, I'm a challenge guy. Like, I enjoy the challenge aspect of these games.
You also won individual immunity. You won the you did well in both physical and mental
yeah,
challenges. So like, yeah, I'd say you're a pretty decent asset.
Yeah, like I thought, I mean, I definitely tried to suss that out with Simmons. I mean, and I think I wrongly stated in my like vote out, like right before I got voted out confessional, that dumb old me over here thinks that it is going off challenge performance if it's not, if it's not Austin, and that I want to win, so let's pick one of them. Maybe actually leaning into that more could have, because I think my primary at the end of the day was still like, okay, I believe that it's Austin. We talked about him last round. Let's just kind of keep that going. We can keep the unity thing going, I thought. So I think he still was kind of my primary. Maybe if I had focused and leaned in even more on the challenge performance thing. And again, sorry, Brittley. I don't think it probably would have been Andrew, I guess, either. But maybe if it had been like, hey, Simmons, Brittley kind of struggled in that last challenge, let's just vote Brittley. I kind of would have thought that Simmons, among anybody, would be the kind of person to say, like, as like a challenge exceller and like appreciator as well, that he might go for something like that, right? But yeah, it was tough.
I think it was a tough vote regardless of the path that you took, because at this point, because you are going to tribal so often, a lot of you are making bonds individually with a bunch of separate people that are outside of like your core groups. So you would have needed still 5 votes to win the day. And say, I think the most optimal move is Brittley, because if you have a conversation with Austin, and Austin, we hear in the episode, Austin's like, I would have loved to talk with Brittley. Brittley has not said 2 words to me. Yeah. Austin probably would have been on board. Simmons won't care at that point because Austin and Andrew are safe. You'll have Maddie, but then you can't guarantee Mike, because Mike and Brittley have a good connection these few rounds. So does Mike flip over to the other side? Now it's a 4-4 deadlock. Does he go into that deadlock to save Brittley, or does he ultimately succumb to your thing because you guys just keep pressuring? Like, do you really want to go over the rocks over this? Like, don't you want to just survive this vote? Keep moving forward as a unit, blah 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 blah. Like that's like the path I think if I was in your shoes I could do, but I'm also someone who has all this insight,
all the information.
Yeah, I have all the information,
all the chats.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it was a hard vote regardless.
Yeah, and we see another core four, what Mike Reick named as the failed fraternity. You know, they kind of got together and
Let me pledge. Let me
yeah.
for fraternity.
Well, see,
No Moss fraternity.
No, see, I think that's why he couldn't be in it, because if he was in it, it wouldn't have been a failed fraternity.
Why do you think that that group kind of mushed out the way it did? You know, they can't have all the guys, like that's boo-hoo, you know what I mean? That would be not a crowd pleaser. I get it. You have to leave one guy out. I'm sorry. But why do you think that it ended up being you left out and
Mike.
not Mike?
Oh, well, swap me with I know he's part of the Exile 3, but swap me for Andrew. He was awful in the challenge and like kind of, if I'm being quite honest, had like probably the snakiest game out of any of us up till that point. Like swap me for Andrew. Like I was actually like, I know that I didn't talk that much to Karen in the first round. And I know that the second round was maybe a bit tumultuous because it was ultimately going for Lydia, but like even in the second round and into the third, like I was talking to Karen more, like obviously she did great at her portion of that second challenge. Like I was really looking forward to working with her. So I would have loved to have been brought in on like a Simmons, Austin, Karen thing. Yeah, swap me for Andrew.
Do you think if you had known about kind of the Exile dynamics a little bit more, you might have pegged this group or a potential for this group and gotten ahead of maybe Mike's position or pushed Andrew out, knowing, you know, okay, well, they all played together, but also, like you said, he's being snaky and he kind of sucks, so let's get him out.
Yeah. I mean, of course, right? Like that big elephant in the room is that I have no idea that any of this is going on and that Simmons and Moorhead are as close as they are. My bad. On the other hand, though, like there had to have been like, and like, let's say that Simmons ends up going for me because he perceives that I'm like gunning for Moorhead. And I think he even mentions once, he's like, well, if they're going to be so like, they're going to be so gung-ho for Moorhead, then we're going to have to go this other way, blah, blah, blah. And then it ends up being me. But had he or anybody like just said, hey, like, it's not going to be Moorhead, we want to use him, or we're close, or I get not wanting to like divulge too much about that relationship, but like, hey, we think that we like just take some semi-strong stance, not wanting to vote for Moorhead. Like, I'm pretty sure you've got me. Like, you've got me to back off. I've done enough like calling out of the names of who it's going to be. I'm not trying to significantly overplay this. Tell me that we want to work with Moorhead instead of voting him out, and like, done deal. So like, there's some ulterior extra motive of like maybe too influenced by the duo comment, or just for some other reason feel like they got to get me out. But like, if you're coming at it from just like Danny wanted Moorhead, so we want Danny, I think that that's incomplete.
Yeah.
And, you know, let's talk about the Austin of it all. We see you in a final Zoom right before Tribal with everybody but Austin and Andrew. And you ask, I'm sorry. My body's making so much noise. And okay, so you're in a Zoom with everyone but Austin and Andrew, and you say, well, who is Austin voting for? He has to vote for somebody. And everyone's like, well, I don't know, I haven't talked to him. Are there red flags flying up? Yeah.
As I was watching that final call before Tribal, there was red flags all over the place. I guess had I picked up on them, I probably wouldn't have had enough time to do anything about it. But yeah, the like, he's not, we don't know who he's voting for. he doesn't really seem super into it. Karen's like, yeah, he seems kind of like out of it, not really like, he doesn't really care about this game. Meanwhile, like the few times that I did talk to him, he's like the most energetic, like committed to playing this game person that is probably on this season.
I don't know. Lex took a whole week off.
Yeah, okay, maybe Lex, but yeah, the like the Simmons like not saying he's like so and then never,
Simmons trademark.
and never says it, and someone else
Maddie was just like, I'll say it, Austin.
yeah, okay. There was that. Yeah, there was the doesn't feel like he's playing, don't know who he's voting for. Meanwhile, I'm like, oh, I'm so safe. All six of us all cozy in our Zoom room.
Mm-hmm.
Which like I thought about after how like somebody had to have considered that too, like from that side, because that's what we did the first round with Lydia, or like the prior round with Lydia. Like everybody in a room, we're gonna vote unified. So everybody except who it might be, I think Lydia and Andrew are not in this like pre-tribal Zoom.
Yep.
Call it the Boston Rob method, whatever you want to say, like keep people confined before tribal. But like, so interesting that if that was like considered as something like, oh, Danny's gonna probably want to like have everybody together. So like, let's make like, so Austin, sorry, you're probably not going to be like allowed in that room with us, but like, we're good, and we're just going to play it up to Danny right before tribal. So like, yeah, good on them.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a great play. I remember in Exile being like, before every tribal, I have a Zoom, so I'm good. But you're right. Just because you're in a Zoom right before tribe doesn't mean those people aren't gonna snake you behind your back. That was all my questions. If we are ready for Facebook questions.
Yes, we are. So we're gonna get into these Facebook questions. The first one that comes up is from Ashley. Ashley says, "Hi, Danny. Curious how you think you would have done if you had started out on the Fumo tribe instead of Ignis. What would your strategy have been?"
So I think I don't know that it would have differed all that much, other than I guess I wouldn't have had the duo thing, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been nice. Probably, and I think at that point I'm actually in a pretty similar position to Ashley, because I know like a lot of people are talking about how she's in a nice spot because she doesn't have any relationships, in the game that people like really significantly know people from her season. I mean, that would have been like me in the environment on that tribe. So probably, trying to make those one-on-one relationships with people, have a couple of good situations that I can, work with, whatever ends up turning out to be the best one for me. So
okay. Next question is from Sarah. She asks, watching the first few episodes, what is the biggest surprise that you have seen from your tribe that you just did not have any idea what's going on?
Other than the failed fraternity, trying to think of other ones that I had no idea was going on. I mean, I guess I didn't know that. Again, a couple people have made the fair point that Lydia got a lot of the flack for being like the idol or advantage beast.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Garsow's over here like just knocking it out.
Yeah.
Had no idea that was going on. Don't know when he found that. Would be nice to know based on what episode I put like too much work into trying to solve that same phone thing. But
it was day 2, so the day after the marooning. So it would be Saturday, the 11th.
Okay, I think I was working on Sunday, so good to know there was absolutely no chance that I was getting that.
Yeah.
None. Okay. Next question is from Lydia. If you could compare your play style to any actual Survivor castaway, who would you pick?
maybe just like because of the overplay theme. I don't like particularly love this Castaway, but like maybe it gives Tony vibes. Maybe it gives like, not that I won the first time, but maybe it gives like
Mhm.
just tried way too hard out the
Mhm.
gate. I think Simmons told me that I need to chill out. It's very true. There was a lot of anxiety going on, and
Yeah.
so maybe it's a Tony.
Mhm.
I will say, to be fair, you had a right to have some anxiety when it's your name in the alliance that's being thrown around.
Yeah.
Simmons had the luxury of not having his name thrown around. But next question is from Luke, who says, what is the one thing you could have done differently that would have changed the game?
Probably the one thing that I think would have had the biggest impact. This interaction was not shown, though I think Lydia has referenced it. We had a conversation the day after Garsow was voted out. She talks about how she was kind of eating crow and going to everybody and doing kind of her apology tour. So we had a conversation about that, where she just basically she had her pitch of the anybody but me, use me as a number, blah blah blah. And we kind of talked about that, about the possibility of like, my name was out there as, call me a threat, whatever, as a threatening person, your name's out there now, like, and two, I mean, we're all good players, it's all stars, but like maybe two perceived good players, maybe like not something that people would expect us to align together. But I think rolling with that in some kind of way, I'm not sure who we bring in, not sure who we vote out, but I think just more serious consideration of that as a possibility, potentially has some positive effect for me. So
Okay. Next question is from Greg. We sort of touched on it, but I'll also say it. Everyone in Ignis seemed to know how close you and Maddie were working together. Did you do anything to try and separate yourself from her?
yeah, definitely. I mean, more like subtle, probably. Again, like letting people know that the way that I'm thinking about it is that I'm not going to not work with Maddie just because she had like she went to like an opera or like a concert or
Oh yeah,
something,
yeah. She went to a play with her
to a
mom.
play the night of the first tribal, or the night
Yep.
of the Garsow tribal, I believe. So like kind of played that up, like, oh, I haven't even like gotten to talk with Maddie all day. So I'm, and then like the next tribal around, kind of, oh well, yeah, she wasn't around like all day. I was like honestly more worried that she was gonna, I was more uncertain of her vote than I was in like Mike's vote, or like, so things here and there. Again, nothing next level of like, I will vote for Maddie over whatever's going down right now. It just hadn't gotten to that time yet. I know that I said in a lot of my like pregame stuff that I wanted to like slit throats and like do all this deceptive, which like I was getting there. It just wasn't the time yet to do that. And I guess maybe it should have been sooner, but so
Awesome.
little subtleties here and there.
Love it. Next question is from Lex. Danny, sending you much love from Seattle. Even though our paths never crossed in the game, I gotta give you credit. I truly appreciate the passion and you giving it your all. For my question, I would love to know, if you progressed further in this season, would you play more of a villainous or heroic type of game?
Yeah, I mean, again, alluding to my pregame stuff, I wanted to play. Like, I wanted to shake things up. Again, like not, I mean, we had a swap in my season, but it was kind of like a pretty simple, like split, swap, new tribes, develop some different relationships from the swap tribe and all these things, but like was really looking forward to, and unfortunately didn't get to anything that, could have been like a more significant swap or mix up in this season. And like that's where like the gameplay really starts, right? And like you get like these mixed relationships and different histories and where you actually get to like really think about what is best for your game, and like not even feel as bad about cutting a person from your original tribe because you want to work with somebody from your swap tribe because that's just better for your game. For the most part of my last season, everything that I did up until right at the end was more or less better for my game. But I think it would have been really exciting to find those opportunities and like understand what other people's intentions are, and people that are operating for the best of their own game. And it's just like the complexity of it is so much more interesting. And I'm certain that would have led to like some maybe villainous behavior. I don't know.
I think you would have been great once you hit the mini days. I think that's really where you would have shined.
I think you and Garsh, I would have loved to see the unexpected, like have you go up against like some other like big compies just to see when going toe to toe who would take it, but we're gonna move on with the questions. We have a few more left. This next one is from an ally from Sahara Dunes, is Kylie, saying, "Hi Danny, going into All Stars, what impact did your Sahara Dunes game have on your strategy? What did you try to change in this game compared to your last?"
So I think, again, some elements were similar, some were different. I think ultimately the trust, because of how far I got and what I could and couldn't do with my game, the trust factor was unfortunately very similar, right? Like for as far as I got here, stuck with my guns, stuck with my people, assuming that they had my best interest at heart. So that was kind of a similarity. But I do think like actively thought about and acted on my desire to like play much harder. Definitely sat back a lot in Sahara Dunes. Outside of the John vote, there wasn't really much active decision making that I needed to have happen in order to progress. Again, just the style and format of game forces you to be a bit more active maybe anyway, because if you sit back, people are gonna think that you're not talking game and vote you out 7-1. So it was definitely a much more active game for me, but I think, unfortunately, some of the same things that did me dirty back then kind of did me dirty here too.
Hey, second to last question, we got one from Carrie, saying, "I'm a craft beer gal. If you're also a beer drinker, give me a recommendation. If not, suggest a yummy drink."
There was a lot of craft beer around here, and I enjoy a lot of it. If you enjoy, Carrie, if you enjoy a nice IPA, there's
I can tell you here. No, she does not do IPAs.
Okay. There's a brewery called Live Oak that's out of Austin. They've got lots of good stuff, and they don't make IPAs. So
there you go. And I liked this question just because I just remembered while you were in the game, you would have your drinks in a basic like white cup because you didn't want to show what you were drinking on the episodes.
Gotta keep your cards close to your chest.
I loved it. But with that, the last question on Facebook before I know Lily has some closeout questions is from me. It's me again, Mr. Positivity. I would love for you to think about one positive thing you took away from your All-Star experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the people, right? Even for my limited time, and even, from people that I got to play zero game with, just the reach out and, the making sure that you're okay and the how are you doing and like just general connecting on life things, like both within the game and after the fact, has been like great. Feeling, I know I'm a newer person in kind of DCP/org community. So to me, the most positive thing was just like getting the opportunity to play again and to, continue to gain experience and, work with awesome people that also love, doing this thing. Special shout out, of course, to, Maddie and Brittley. Thanks for not voting for me. But also like to the Seattle Trinity crew. They're all awesome. Lydia, I absolutely loved, playing with you. I'm sorry that we were at odds for like 100% of the game. But like our confrontation moments, some shown, some unshown, were like the most fun thing about playing. It was like the only time that I felt like I actually was playing. So that was great. Thank you for those moments. And then like Lex and Sarah also shout outs, because I played, again, zero game with them at all, did not cross paths with them once. But just like the reach out after the fact has been so nice. And they're such great people, and, not doubting that everybody on the cast is like equally as great a person. And that's why it's so great to get to play with people like this. But just wanted to throw out a couple of special shout outs for people that made the experience so great. So
I love that. Lily, back to you.
All right. Well, I have 3 questions. 2 of them are Ian's that he wants everyone to be asked. So his first one is, if you could replace one of the all-stars from your original season with someone from that season, if that makes sense. So you only have you and Maddie. So you're
So
replacing
you're removing Maddie.
and putting somebody else from Sahara Dunes in the game in her spot. Who are you putting in Maddie's place?
And I'm gonna remove Erik and Kylie from this because they are on production. So you have an even more limited cast here.
Well, I mean, John would have been hilarious, right? Like, I would have loved to see how that would have worked. Would he have been spiteful? Would we have worked together as well as we did pre him getting voted out? Would we have been on the same tribe, different tribe? Yeah, definitely John. Also, he was just a great character in general, so it would have been great to have him on the season.
I have heard the rumor that Jordan has updated her Zoom, so she might be able to move around if you
Tied, John or Jordan.
That's a game changer.
John because we did work together, and Jordan because we never got to.
And his second question is, who are the 4 people that are on your DCP Mount Rushmore? You can put yourself. No one will judge you, but just 4 people from anywhere in DCP that would be on your DCP Mount Rushmore.
I'm gonna say shout out to Lydia again. First boots can be on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, 100%.
George Washington was the first president.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Can be on Mount Rushmore. I'll throw it to Lex too, just because, yeah, solid gameplay the first time around, and the way it's shaping up for him, like, seems like really solid gameplay this round too. So let me think. I mean, I gotta go with people from the All-Star season.
You don't have to.
or like winners, or I will. Can I go production for this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because then to amend for my non-voting for either of them in the and also to just give some Sahara Dunes love. I know we don't get it that often. I'll throw it to Kylie and Erik because they both did play incredible games, both very equally deserving to win that season. And great production members now as well. So
Yes.
that's the Rushmore.
Love it.
Love it. Love it. All right. And my final question is, if you could sum up your game in one word, what would it be and why?
What one word did I use for my last game?
Ooh, that would be interesting.
I think I just said chill. So what's the opposite of that? Like,
Paranoid?
I was gonna go more with like the literal of like temperature.
Oh.
Hot. You came in hot. There you go.
I don't know that doesn't really feel right either. Maybe warm.
Warm? All right.
Lukewarm?
Lukewarm.
All right. Unsure
right.
about that
No,
one.
you know
but
what?
I
You know what?
appreciate the reasoning.
Lukewarm makes sense because it was like you were heating up, but you never got the chance to fully raise
There you
that
go.
temperature.
Never was really boiling. I didn't get to full boiling,
Mhm.
but
You're
simmering.
Yeah, simmering.
Oh, okay. I like simmer. That
All
is
right. There we go.
exit approved. Yes.
Stamp. All right. Well, thank you, Danny. It has been a pleasure having you here. Sad it's so soon, but we move on with our next episode tomorrow, Thursday, then our exit interview for that person and on Saturday, and then the Sunday show on Sunday. And then we'll be back at you again with another episode on Monday. So stay tuned. We've got a jam-packed season you're not going to want to miss. Goodbye, everyone.